Hey, this is Max. I am back with another Csr2 video. This time it's Tempest 2 T2 Challenge. I'm going to walk you through how to use a M235i to beat every part of this challenge. I am not using a Boxster because a Boxster isn't always a car that a new player would have enough parts for or can build up quickly, whereas the M235i, if you pull a 1-star, you can strip dealership cars and easily meet the requirements. The new wrinkle here is the PP limitation, $399 to start. So that means your car must be reset from its current near max state to a $399 PP state. Well, how do you do that? Well, first thing you do is you lower stages on the parts. The primary stages that you want to keep for now would be as much nitrous as possible, but the M235i actually does better with stage 5 nitrous until it's maxed, because the extra nitrous makes it spin its tire and doesn't really help that much. You're probably going to end up having to lower many of the other static increase parts, such as intake, engine, body, to stock to hit the requirement. What I would do is first leave the tire, the trans, and the nitrous, mainly because those are the tunable items. You're going to see that in a minute when I try to tune this car under the PP limitations to the maximum EVO possible. Now, first thing is you can usually add a little bit of parts to kind of eke out that $399. So here we go. We have $399 PP. Let's go tune it. With this kind of tuning, it's real simple. You want to tune to the highest possible EVO, which will give you the best possible time. If that time is good enough, it'll get you through the entire bracket. You also want to keep in mind that you're still going to be dealing with the 0 to 60 challenges. So you want to keep an eye on how your 0 to 60 acceleration is looking when you do the tuning. So I'm playing with the 3 items that you can tune, which is nitrous, trans, and tire, which is why I left most of those stages in, because those are the things that you're going to use to try to hit the maximum EVO. Now, by tweaking, I can probably get a better time in the quarter mile, but I may lose a little bit of time on the 0 to 60. As long as the 0 to 60 is reasonable, you don't have to worry about that too much, because there's a trick of driving it with the nitrous being activated right away to kind of push it beyond what the game is telling you the 0 to 60 can be. Nitrous will tweak it a little bit. I think a little more may help. 4.4, 4.5, 4.3 might be the 4.5, 4.3 should be the good spot. All right, 12.187 is pretty good. The 0 to 60 slowed down a little bit, but it shouldn't be so bad that it'll affect us. Let's see if we can make it through the first set of brackets without retuning. Now, the game is telling me that's easy. That's good. That's a good sign. You want to see easy when you bring the car in. That tells you should be able to make it through quite a few of the races without having to retune or consider somehow resetting the parts in a different way to meet the PP requirements. The initial race, of course, is just to get a baseline of where you're at compared to where the game expects you to be. Since it's saying it's easy, I should be thinned by quite a bit. Here we go. The race itself, in the beginning, this one's easy, just a quarter mile. And you're going to get quite a few of these, and I'm probably going to skip them as far as demonstrating the races. The BMW is an easy car to drive. Drop it on a perfect. Shifts pretty much on perfect. Nitrous second gear. And you should get close to dyno, if not beating it slightly. And what I did there is slightly beating what my dyno told me I would be doing. I believe we looked earlier, it was 12.187. It's running at 12.04. That's a good thing. Finn's running 12.5. So you have a 5/10 margin, but the opponents will get faster and faster. I will show you the in screen for each so you can see where the opponents are for each race, and you can see the progression in difficulty. But unless it's a 0 to 60 challenge, it's not really worth looking at. You can see it takes about 10 races before you can get to the next increase in parts. So each bracket, you have to make sure your car can last through the 10 races and beat each of the opponent. This is where some tuning and part selection becomes very important. Not all parts are going to be equal in benefit. So sometimes you may get the same PP rating, by using different parts, but you won't get the car to run the same time, and that hurts you. So you want to play with that a little bit. In this case, with the M235i, the way I have it set up is probably pretty good because I'm having no problems here. However, that doesn't mean there cannot be an even more optimal setup, and you may discover that by playing around with the parts. That being said, going right through these races, no problem, one after the other, bang, bang, bang. So here we come to our 0 to 60 sprint. This is where you're going to find out if the setting is sufficient. Most of the struggling with Tempest 2 is when you have to deal with these sprints. The M235i is a fast car on sprints. Just hit the nitrous right away as soon as you launch. Bang, bang. And it should have no problem rushing through 0 to 60. It's a pretty quick car for acceleration. The reason why I would not use an Audi TT for this challenge with Tempest 2 is the TT has a relatively slow 0 to 60, but it picks up speed quite a bit in the later gears. Not a good choice for 0 to 60 sprints, especially when you can't throw a lot of parts at it. 3.47 is actually better than what the computer says we can do on 0 to 60. This is good. This car should have no issues getting through this first part. As the difficulty increases, we'll see if things get tougher as far as setup and tune. When we talk about tuning and setup, one of the things that you have to consider is that engine, intake, body, and turbo basically give static increases in EVO based on what the individual fusions give you EVO points wise. So when you're picking those parts, what you want to look at is if you're going to gain 5 PP points and only 5 EVO, you may want to see if the intake will do more. Okay, for example, you add the engine, adds 5 PP points and then adds 5 EVO. That's not so good. If you put the engine aside and put the same part in for the intake, and it tells you, oh, it only takes 2 PP points, but it gives you 10 EVO, you might want to keep that. So it's minimum maxing, which is minimum PP points for maximum EVO gain, and that's before even considering tuning. If you can tune to get even more points, that's even better. Those are the kind of setup tips that I'm giving because that is the best way to set up the car to run its best within a PP range. Tuning itself takes a little bit of playing around with, but generally speaking, it's a balance between grip and power and final drive ratio. Okay, so what does that mean? Well, it means that the lower the final drive ratio, the less grip you'll need because the engine won't be in its power band as much. Yes, this is a video game. That doesn't make any sense. Well, yeah, but that's how the game is designed. It basically says if you have the tires on lower air pressure, you're getting more grip. Therefore, if your final gears are lower and your engine power is low, the car will lose EVO. It's just kind of a game of balancing the final drive point to the tire point to get the best performance you can out of the car. So far, the 12045 range runs is they're easily holding their own. I just did a race there against Ruby. It's part of the storyline race, so I wanted to showcase that. But otherwise, the other racers in between really doesn't do a whole lot. Now, by finishing that, we have reached the new point on the PP range, 415. So you go back to garage and start throwing on parts. Again, you want to throw on parts and you want to look to see that the part you add doesn't add a huge amount of PP points with almost no EVO gain. That just bumped us up a ton of points and barely moved the EVO points. So I'm taking that back off because that is not a good part to throw in. Let's take a look at some other stuff. Intake earlier showed me that it doesn't bump up PP really quick. Let's see, 2 points, 3 points. Okay, 4, 5, 6 points. But it has a nice gain in EVO just from that. We're up to 414. Boom, nice jump, 100 points. So 414, let's see if we can get to exactly 415 by throwing something else on there. One little stage of body. Alright, that did not come with a fusion, so it didn't really add much in way of evo points. However, that's pre-tuning. With tuning, maybe you have to squeeze out a few more points, and that's what you should do. Once you throw the parts on, get right back to tuning. Generally speaking, by adding more power, your ultimate top speed should increase. It's 129 now. So you can lower it and see if the final drive affects it. Lowering the final drive seems to have reduced the evo points, so leave that alone. And now play with the tires to see if more grip is helpful or less. Same thing with the nitrous. Tweak it a little bit. See if there's any change. It doesn't seem to do much. However, the time is down to 11:8:38. That's a 2/10, 3/10 gain. Real easy way to find out if it's looking good. Well, it's back to easy. So that's looking good. Should be able to run right through. Some quick racing should tell us where the car is relative to the opponent's times. And that would give you a nice guess as to if you can make it through the 10 races. Now remember, a 5/10 difference before held its own all the way through. At the end, the opponents did get a bit faster, about 2/3, but it was no problem. So here we have another 5/10 gap. That should help make sure that the challenges are met all the way through. Back to sprint. This one says it's a easy, well, it's not an easy, but it's a not a hard challenge, so it shouldn't be a problem. Again, nitrous right away shaves the little time off of the 0 to 60. BMW is a quick accelerating car, and it should have no problem meeting the requirements of beating the time. So 4.2 was the requirement, 3.4 is what it ran, no problem. Once you get through this, it's just a bunch of quarter-mile runs to kind of get through the rest. Notice how the opponents are getting faster one by one. And that's going to keep happening. Here's a little bit of storyline-based racing. I'll run the entire race since it is against Finn. The goal of every Tempest is to get the boss car. I know people rush through this and lose on the end and don't get the boss car. You're really kind of wasting an opportunity here. It's a unique car. Not all of them are great, but Finn's car, once fully built, is quite good in the T2 lobby for racing bots. Not necessarily for racing people, but racing bots. It gives almost as much respect points as a T4 or T3 car in its lobby against live people, meaning you're getting almost 1,000 points from a bot. Normally the bots give you much lower RP, and that's why people don't race it. But with Finn's T2 car, it actually gives you quite a decent return. And with wildcard activated, I've seen as high as 3,000 points per race. I don't even get 3,000 points a race sometimes in T5 with an opponent, a live opponent. So that's something definitely to consider. Plus, when you're trading, a 3,000 point gain on a win versus a second loss, which is 0, is actually an average of 1,500 points. So that's not really all that great, is it? Now, with bots, you never have to lose. This is where Finn players who can find the bots and run it during a wild card can rack up huge points fast. Now, I haven't had any luck finding bots with my Finn T2 car, so I'm not saying that you will either, but keep in mind this is a boss car that's worth having, and therefore, if you're gonna do this, get your M235i built to max using dealership cars, and you will not have to lose out on getting the car. Now, the Porsche Boxster would make this challenge seem almost like a walk in the park if you know how to set up your Porsche. My advice on setting up the Boxster, everybody who plays with it a lot knows, don't add any engine. Just leave it at stock. Don't add the stage 6 trans, even if you have it. Leave it at stage 5. For some reason, the Boxster runs its best times with stock engine and stage 5 trans. Everything else can be added as needed. even at lower PP ranges like we are doing with the BMW, even at $399 with just nitrous, tire, and the trans, the Boxster should easily meet most of these challenges and beat it. So cutting it kind of close there on that last race there, 11.8, 11.726, but no problem to beat it. And once again, after 10 races, you're able to kind of move forward and raise the PP range up once more. So it's basically 10 races, you get a PP bump. And you want to make sure that you do the bump as soon as you're given the opportunity, while playing with the settings to make sure that you're getting the best benefit you can. Now you can see I'm missing a few fusions here. And generally when you're missing fusions, you don't want to add those parts as a priority, because any stage added with 0 fusions in it is almost, it's going to increase your PP range quite a bit, but it almost doesn't give you enough benefit to the overall gain in PP, because there's no fusions and there's therefore very little Evo bump. Now again, playing with the different parts to see if any of them bump up or bump down the Evo points by quite a bit. I am tweaking the body right now to get the parts to work right. So let's add a turbo, see where that gets us. Nothing. So taking it back off. So tweaking these PP points isn't just finding any old increase and just dump it onto the car. You're gonna have to play around with it and find the thing that gives you the most gain for the least PP point change. Once we've determined those are probably the best parts, it's back to tuning. Now what's interesting about most cars is that as you start throwing more parts at it, sometimes the grip parts, such as the tire or the trans, should be bumped down or adjusted in stages, because you can get the same PP range with, say, a stage less trans, okay, but you just added 2 stages of engine or body that gives you a bunch of Evo points. It's sometimes worth it to kind of reverse the setup rather than running the max tire, max trans all the time. Depending on the car, it may even be better. Now this doesn't look good. We are starting off with challenging. Whereas as I've shown earlier, we start off with easy. It's much better to make it through the 10 races. So this is something needs to be adjusted still with this car. I'm going to play a few rounds and see where I'm at, and then determine what's going on here. Not having a problem with fin. The question is going to be, am I going to have problems halfway down 4 or 5 races into this? I'm hoping not, but there's always the possibility. Let's see. So yeah, the margin's there. I mean, there is a 5/10 difference, but let's see how quickly the opponents start to catch up, and that will determine if I will need to reset the car, because when I was playing with it earlier, I noticed the Evo points wasn't bumping up, and that's never a good sign. So jump down to 11.7, 11.6. It's catching up quick. All right. Extreme 0 to 60. Even though it says extreme, it doesn't mean that you can't beat it. It's just that it's probably going to be challenging because of the way your car's set up. So it's worth trying anyway, just to see how far off you are, and you might surprise yourself and actually beat it. If it's way off for whatever reason, then definitely you're looking at going back to the drawing board on parts and tuning. So that was extreme. It's probably close. But I think I won that one pretty easily. Yeah, 3 out of 3. Yeah, no, it's not even close. So the extreme wasn't all that extreme. Nonetheless, it's something to definitely be alert about. When you start seeing extreme, that's not good. Oh, we're getting close here. Okay, 11.5 to 11.3. That's not good. Now it's getting to hard. Now hard on a regular race isn't a good thing. That makes it very close for the race. Now we're within about 1/10, and now it's getting closer and closer. At some point with hard, it may get to the point where you're actually going to lose. So this is starting to a retune is definitely in order here. Oh, Finn pulling ahead of you is a bad sign. You should be ahead of him. This is much too close for comfort, and we still got quite a few races to go. So that's not a good sign. That means your car, or in this case my M235i, is not set up right based on the PP rating. I should be doing a lot better than this and should be easily running past Finn and not facing problems. So time to go back and play around with the setting again. I suspect I might be running too much tire or trans. So one of the first things to do, go and lower it. So let's go to tire. Now, the reason why I say too much grip is not good is because, as you know from the way it's described to you in the tuning, the more tire you have and the lower the tire pressure, the more grip you have, but it reduces acceleration. So I'm going to reverse this and instead get most of my points for the PP from power adders rather than grip. See, look, it already bumped past 400. This is a good sign. So that is exactly what I was doing wrong, is I was giving the car too much grip with the tire setting and therefore kind of gimping the Evo points. Now, Evo points dictates ultimately the performance potential of the car at a given PP point range. So this is why same PP point with higher Evo cars will run faster. There's no doubt about it. So 11.34, 133. Okay. But that's sitting with the old tune. Let's see if it can go faster. Again, looking at the Evo points. Okay, not much to do there. It looks like trans is at a good spot. Maybe a few points, tweak. Let's play with the tires. Now, see, this is interesting. Because I lowered the stages of the tires, I can now increase the grip on it and decrease the acceleration and still bump up the Evo points. So the Evo points is much better. 11.282 is much better than what was the Evo and speed the car was running, which is about 11.3. So Finn's running about 11.4, and we got like 2 or 3 races that we got to go through to get this thing taken care of. Now it's still on. It's not on hard anymore. It's not on extreme even. So that means that the tune is definitely helpful. The extra power is going to come into play here and help me get through. 0 to 60 reached quickly without issue, and should be substantially quicker than what the computer requires you to do. 2.9, see, 3.7 requirement. I'm running a 2.9 0 to 60. Blew right through that, no problem whatsoever. Now, given that's the case with the increased performance, should have no problem now making it to the next PP bump. Here's the final race against Ruby for this bracket. And again, I'm confident the car will now have no problem taking her down. That's like a nice Mercedes, T2 Mercedes that you can get in white, except hers is black. I'm sure that's going to be some kind of future boss car you can win. Why don't you use that Mercedes for Tempest 2? Some people would ask. Well, good luck getting fusions for Mercedes. Without fusions, without stage 6, none of these T2 cars are going to make it through these challenges. So I went with a car that I can guarantee myself fusions in stage 6, and hence when I pulled the BMW M235i, I was quite happy because I know I now have a car that can get me through both Tempest 1 and Tempest 2 with just making sure that I'm running basically a maxed out BMW, because this car, even maxed, barely runs 10s. And Finn is going to run about a 10.1 at the very end. So if you're not running a 10 flat and change, you're not going to win his car. We're up to the final bracket bump. No, wait, this is the third one. There's still a bit more here. But we got another bump in PP rating. So now I can start tossing more parts at it. Now, again, you'd want to play with getting as much of the points as you can, meeting the requirement without overrunning it, but not giving up any PP points if you don't have to. So meaning, if the setting says you can have 445 points, you want to squeeze out 445 points as much as possible. If worst comes to worst, you're short a point, okay. But you don't want to be at a point where you're going to be way off on the PP points because you didn't stage up the parts that you need to stage to get to that limit. So you always want to cut it as close as possible to the limit, but keep in mind that it's better to cut with more parts to the limit than one big part that throws like 10 PP points in and pushes you right to the limit, because sometimes that doesn't help you. Now, 11038 is what it bumped down to from 1102. That's not as much of a change, but it is consistent with the changes we've been looking at before. But I think the car can definitely do better. It should be somewhere in the low 11 to high 10s if we play our cards right. May not happen with this setup. It's very close though, so it's worth trying to see. Yeah, I see it's saying challenging. No good. Okay? Back to the drawing board. Because if it's challenging, it's going to start off too close to what you can run. And you're going to need to play with the parts again. So this is where it comes down to, what can I lower that'll bump down a lot of points with... Oh, look at that. Lowering the trans just increased the Evo. That doesn't mean it's going to be faster, though. The question is what other parts we can throw in to give ourselves a lot of Evo. And what can we throw off that won't affect it too much. So everything is about keeping an eye on the Evo points while meeting the requirements of the PP requirements. So now, part of the reason I took away that stage 6 trans is because I have no fusions in it. So rather than adding all these parts with no fusions, I'm taking them off and then see if I can add in other parts. That'll give me a nice bump in Evo points. Now we know the lowest we can go with trans is stage 4. Okay, bumps down the Evo points a bit, but can it be made up by a different part? Nope, too much of a jump. And I'm kind of out of options here on other stuff, so let's see. So I need to bump something else down to get the PP rating I need. I'm not going to take a fusion off. That doesn't affect anything. All right. Yeah, lose some points. Well, let's see if it can be made up with some tuning. So again, playing with those parts takes a little bit of patience, and you want to focus on looking at if it's going to keep the Evo up. Now, the parts have been adjusted. The question now is, can I get the Evo much higher than the 504 points before? I saw a max point of almost 540 something before. And if I can hit that or better, the car would definitely, ooh, look at that. Look at that. So gotta bump up the gears. 592, now the car's ready. Anything, I just basically got about 100 evo point jump. That's gonna be a few tenths right there. 605 is excellent. 69. Bang, 10.8. That means the car might run 10.7s. Just beat the last set of time by about 2/10. Car is now ready. Back to easy. This is what you want to see. Now I'm confident I'm going to make it through the rest of these next few races without headaches. Okay, 11.3, no problem. 11.304, no problem. Kind of bang through these quarter-mile runs. Opponent gets faster, consistent with all the others. Here we have a story run with Finn. Now remember last time, Finn cut it really close to what I ran because my car wasn't optimally set up. I think it's going to be a lot different this time. I'm going to leave them in the dust because with that Evo of 600 points, I know the car is running at its optimal. High Evo point, a nice jump like that from the other setup means that the parts selection is optimal. 10.8. Now, in my tuning video, I also explained something similar to what I just showed you. Part selection, the setup of the parts can be almost as important as tuning itself. So if you select the wrong parts, you may have the same PP rating as an opponent in live, and your car will run slower and therefore lose. Not to say there are no trick tunes, there are plenty of ways to trick the dyno, but even while you're tricking the dyno, the same basics apply. If you pick the right parts and you're tricking the dyno by the same amount as the next guy who used different parts, got the same PP level, but may not have a larger margin to play with, he's going to lose against you. And that's held true for me in live with every car that I set up using this basic theory. And this is how you can get through Tempest using almost any car that can at least ultimately beat the times. With the understanding, of course, with the 0 to 60 challenges and 0 to 100 sprint challenges, pick a car that doesn't spin its tire through the first 3 gears. Why would I not pick something like the TTRS, something like the F12, which can do the job, but you're going to struggle unless you have a max one. The NSX, the Vulcan maybe is so fast, even though it spins the tires in the beginning, it probably won't have an issue making it through. I've never tried Tempest, obviously, with a 918 because my 918 wasn't close to being around or ready when I first ran through Tempest 2. But I can tell you the Hurricane for T5 Tempest 2 is an awesome car to use. The 570S and the VX are both excellent. In fact, I plan to use the VX when I get to the T5. For T1, the GTI does it all. I mean, if you have a max GTI, you're set for Tempest 1 and 2, no problem. I don't know what's coming in 3, but I suspect the GTI probably will do fine for that too. So one star GTI, max it out with some dealership bought GTIs, and you don't have to ever stress about Tempest 1. I see people asking, oh, I couldn't get through Angel's Race. Well, you probably didn't have a max Golf. I mean, considering they cost $30,000 each and they deliver in about 20 minutes, I just can't see why people do not max out a Golf by the time they're level 30 or 40. I mean, if you play this game for longer than 3 weeks, you should be looking at a Golf that is close to being maxed. T2, again, the M235i can do it. It's got to be maxed, and it's got to be almost max fusion. In fact, I'm going to have to go steal some fusions from my other car because I'm just short enough fusions that I don't think I'm going to hit the target time. Usually a few extra epic fusions to putting it really close to max will help me get there. I'll see when I dyno the car if I'm off target time or not. But again, I'm about 4 fusions, 5 fusions short. I can go steal 1 or 2 from Amelia's car. That being said, Amelia's car, if you want it in Tempest 1, build it up using stripped M4s, is one of the best cars to use for the T3 Tempest 2. I will probably try to do this and demonstrate it using a regular M4, but the tuning strategy for Amelia's car is very similar. In fact, it's easier than a regular M4, and you can always watch my video when I put that up to see if, in case you didn't get Amelia's car, maybe you can still pull it off with a regular M3. M4. So, that's another video coming up. Here I'm just kind of, now I can run max PP points. This is the final challenge bracket. That is not going to cut the time. I got to get a little higher than that. And the question is, can I get to 670 points or so? If not, I have to definitely go find me some fusions from another car. All right, 640 probably is not going to cut it. All right, so car's not ready for the final challenge without some more fusions. I'll go find some, throw it on there, but I'm not going to waste your time showing you me stripping fusions from another car. Just jump right on to where I need to be. So it's a little bit short, okay? 49 out of 51 now. Added 2 more fusions, bumped up the Evo a little more. Now it's ready to go. So 486 should be back to easy. Notice it says easy. Should be no problem. 10.1s. I think Finn's final time, like I said, it's like a 10.2 something. So this is going to be a very close final race to win his car. But as long as I drive my car right, I'm pretty confident I won't have a problem getting his car. So the downside to the M is that even maxed, it doesn't really get much under 10. It's like a 10-second car. Versus a Boxster, even not maxed, can run 8s. Well, if you have a Boxster that even runs 9s, you will have no problem beating Tempest 2 and taking Finn's car. So that's something to think about. The M235i is not the greatest car. However, it is the car that you can max out without waiting for Boxster parts to drop for weeks and weeks. And let's be honest, you cannot buy a Boxster for money. You'll be spending tons of gold, which costs real money. If you start to really want to strip Boxster cars to get parts and fusions. On the average, any car to actually max out, you're looking at probably buying and stripping easily 15 to 20 cars. At 750 gold a pop, the Boxster is not a cheap proposition. Okay, neither are some of the other ones. So once again, your options are really the 3 best cars, in my opinion, for the T2 challenge is the Boxster, okay, running at least 9.5s and faster, because at that point it's more than ready to deal with any challenge within this Tempest 2. The Alpha 4C, actually with a decent amount of S6, runs low 9s to high 8s, I believe. Low 9s, 9.4 is what it does max. So the 4C can do the job as well. In fact, in the first round of doing this Tempest, I used the 4C that I maxed out, and it was a breeze. For the road less traveled, the M235i will do the job, but it will not do it without being very, very close to being maxed. So if you have an M235i missing stage 6 or missing fusions, don't do it. You're not going to get Finn's car. I hate going through 50 races and gaining very little benefit from the 50 races from a respect point perspective, and then you end up still not getting the car from the boss. That to me is kind of a waste of my time. So anytime I step into the Tempest challenges, my immediate goal is always get the boss car. Okay, if I'm not ready, why not be a little more patient? Spend another week, buy some more cars, strip them, get your car ready. I have also gone through Tempest 1 T4 with the Aston Martin. That is coming up. That's the next one after T2 and Tempest 2. I will try to max out my Aston Martin because it's still short some fusions and certainly a stage 6. So I will probably spend a week or so, strip some Aston Martin to try to get that car ready. And then I will go after the challenge. And again, the Aston Martin should have no problem getting through the Tempest 2 challenges, even with the various PP limitations. I will make a video just like this one, breaking down the setup as well as the tuning, so that when you do it, and if you want to use the same cars I'm using, you can just follow the video setups and get right through the entire challenge. Here is the final challenge to take down Ruby, and then followed by that will be our chance to get Finn's car. Again, as I mentioned earlier, it's a great car for T2 because it's what a lot of players like to use to hunt for bots. And once you have fusions and stage 6 of it, that car actually gets very good respect points from running against a bot. And certainly make life easier on days when you're just trying to make some quick points for your crew to meet the minimum. It's definitely a boss car that's worth having. So of all these boss cars that are available, I think the best ones to try to win, definitely Angel Civic, Amelia's LBM4, and Finn's Siege Sport. These 3 cars are, in my opinion, must-haves for the boss cars. The others are nice to have and optional, but none of them, to me, are as usable and useful as those 3. Those 3 cars have seen plenty of mileage once I've won them. And they're not that... The Finn's car is a little difficult to build, but the Amelia's M4 can be maxed out very quickly. So here we go. T4 is next. I will do that with the Aston Martin Vanquish. That video will be coming. Here's my chance to take Finn down for his car, and here's the offer for that Super Nitrous. Use the Super Nitrous. Do not waste your money on Super Nitrous. I can't say that enough. I hear people using it all the time. For $4.99, it really isn't expensive. I'm not saying it is, but your car should be ready. If you need Super Nitrous to beat it, your car's not ready. And you were impatient and you got here too fast. And I understand it's a game and some people don't care. They just rather spend some money and get through it. Perfectly fine, perfectly acceptable. What I'm trying to show you is the way to do all this. From the get-go, when I made this account to now, I have spent 0 money. And here I'm about to take down Finn for his car, although it is not an easy race. As you can see, it's pretty close, but we got the car. And that's what counts. Hey, if you like this video, please leave a like, subscribe to the channel. I will keep adding these kind of detailed videos on how to do things for each